Hello, this is Joan Friedman broadcasting from Cape Cod Community College for our program of All Ways, ALL Ways for the Academy of Lifelong Learning. Today we have with us one of our coordinators, Leslie Dealy. Hello, Leslie.
Hi.
Want to thank you so much for being here, Leslie. Leslie is one of our coordinators, but Leslie's also a licensed psychologist and is the owner of Dealy Associates. So Leslie, could you tell us a little bit about your background and about Dealy Associates?
I've been a clinical social worker in private practice for 35 years, along with my husband, and we treated children, adolescents, and adults. And it was a great experience working with all these people. And we just retired a couple of years ago, I would say. It's been about 2 years. So I'm getting involved in other things right now, volunteering for ALL, which I love, which has been a godsend, especially during COVID. It's really helped me be connected, as well as friends of mine and meeting new friends as well. So I'm looking forward to this topic today about loneliness that we're going to discuss. I think it's very relevant to our time right now.
As Leslie said, our topic today is the topic of loneliness. And the way that I got interested in this topic and got involved in it was because I had been helping a friend of mine off Cape run a campaign, and that my role in this campaign was doing a lot of phone calling for her. I did a lot of phone calling, and when I get phone calls and that are what I would consider a nuisance call, sometimes I'm not altogether that nice about it, or it might not be that polite or give them that much time. But what I was finding when I was making all of these phone calls, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them, is that people wanted to talk to me. People wanted to keep me on the phone, and they were very appreciative of the fact that I had called them. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling me. And I got the sense from all of these conversations that there were so many people out there that were alone and lonely that it really started to overwhelm me, that there was so much loneliness out there and that people were so isolated, that we are a country, an area of aging people. Aging people can be isolated in terms of their ability to get out. They can also be literally alone in their home or in their condo. And I was finding that the people that I was talking to were terribly, terribly lonely. I started to talk with some of my friends about that, and I consider Leslie among my friends, and I rely on her expertise. And I said, Leslie, could we do a show about loneliness and how to combat loneliness, especially how to combat loneliness in the very darkest part of the winter? So here we are in January on Cape Cod, and our topic today is loneliness and how to deal with loneliness, how to deal with it on an individual basis, and how to deal with it as a community. So I'm going to turn this over to Leslie because she's the expert on this. Leslie, could you tell us some of the techniques? What are some things that people could do if they find themselves lonely? What could they do to make themselves kind of feel a little bit better?
Well, the first thing is that lonely is the situation or state of having more needs than can be filled. by your current resources. So you need to find some ways to connect, and social connection is most important way to offset loneliness. So as simply as calling a friend or socializing and meeting with a friend, or if that's not possible, perhaps your friends don't live locally, you could go to an event or an activity where there'll be other people that are friendly and welcoming. Um, there are social groups like DY Newcomers, for example, in the Cape, where you have a nominal fee to join, and you can be involved in all kinds of activity groups and lectures and socialize and interact. There are senior centers, community centers on the Cape. There's elder services. There are a lot of resources available on the Cape that we can avail ourselves of when we have those feelings. But the first thing is to accept that you're feeling lonely, identify it and accept it, and not try to hide from it and not try to hide it from other people. Because with loneliness, sometimes there's a stigma of something's wrong with you, or you're a loner, or you're too shy, and that's why you're feeling lonely. And it shouldn't be like that. Loneliness is part of the human condition. And more, since people have gone remote and done things virtually with work, with socializing, with Instagram, with text, with Facebook, there's been less person-to-person contact, less face-to-face contact. And this has been a big problem along all walks of society, starting with even young men, 18 to 25-year-olds, have the highest percent of loneliness when they self-report. They have 61% rate of loneliness, whereas the general population has a 39%. So that is really a target population for us to try to help. And there are some other new programs starting to help offset loneliness. One is a program by the Samaritans, and what they do is they have teenagers reach out to other teenagers and they form a bridge. And that is something that really helps decrease teenagers' feelings of loneliness, because they're really high in the group.
I'm really surprised at that. The contacts that I had were all adults, I would say, and we think of our teenagers as being very gregarious, but they've come through a terrible time. They were really robbed of a lot of those really formative years and finding out who they are and who they are, and who their friends are. It left them very lonely. Um, the things that I have found when I'm feeling lonely or isolated in some ways is I know I like to journal. That seems to be my answer to everything, is just journal. Take out a journal and write a few sentences. How am I feeling today? You can go back tomorrow and see how you're feeling about it. The other thing that I find is helpful, is just going out in nature. It's just going out and taking a walk. Just go take a walk. Just get some fresh air. Tends to make me feel better, no matter what's going on in my life. Would you advise either of those?
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do to calm yourself, feel more in touch with yourself. And certainly nature is one of the big ones. Listening to music helps a lot of people to lift their mood and their spirits. I would say people can read, or they can watch a show on TV that's uplifting. There are many ways to get involved in activity and also distract yourself. But the core issue with loneliness is lack of social connection. So the most fundamental way to really offset it is to develop a social connection through some kind of network. And there are these, as I said, social groups. There are library book groups. There are ways that people can find to meet other people. And all you need is one close friend, maybe two, to feel that sense of connection that will make you feel less lonely.
Leslie, I know that you're part of a very special group here on Cape Cod that does some outreach to people. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about that group and what you do?
Absolutely. This is a wonderful group, and it's called Bay to Sound. And what Beta Sound does is it helps people to age in place. And they do this by asking for, I'd say, a very reasonable fee, and having people sign up for different services like doctor's appointments, the transportation to places that they no longer can drive to themselves. Also, chores and tasks around the house that they need someone to help with. And finally, my personal favorite is friendly visits, where you go and you actually spend an hour or more with one of these members and you actually connect face to face. Even during COVID, we did that, and the connection may have involved masks, but we were still there in person. And what a difference that makes in someone's life. It really brightens it up.
I had a relative who did exactly that, and she had several elderly, isolated people, and what they wanted to do is just play cards.
That's fine. That's
and
wonderful.
she would go over with them and play cards, and a plus for everybody. So that's Bait Sound.
Yes.
And, that's here on Cape Cod. Free service for for anybody on Cape Cod, again, who's trying to stay in their home. Really easy way to beat being lonely. Give them a call, they'll sign up, send somebody over. Could end up being very good friends. So that's an easy way and a service that we have here on Cape Cod. But like Leslie says, the libraries have book clubs. The senior citizen centers run a list of very wonderful activities. Anybody that wants to get involved could find anything just to get started, just to get out and to not be as isolated, make a connection somewhere. The churches also have groups.
Yes.
And they're becoming much more aware of the number of people that are isolated, and there are people in the church groups that do go out and make home visits. Another wonderful way to connect. As I got involved with this topic, I found that I wasn't the only one who was seeing this. That in fact, the Attorney General of the United States has come out with a platform against to advance social connections. That he has ruled loneliness as an epidemic in this country, so that as on a government level, they're trying to increase methods of involvement by strengthening social infrastructure, enacting pro-connection public policies, mobilizing the health sector, reforming digital environments, deepening the public knowledge of this, and cultivating a culture of connection. And we talk about major efforts like that, developing a culture of connection. It clearly needs to be from a national level. So it's good to know that these policies are at least in the stages now of becoming enacted. On local levels, we have senators that are involved in the topics of loneliness and isolation. Amongst them are Senator Chris Murphy, who in our neighboring state of Connecticut has become very involved in this subject and introduced the Addressing Social Isolation and Loneliness in Older Adults Act. And he's trying to move that through the Congress to help enact some of the programs that the Attorney General has laid out, so that on a national level, on a state level, there are some efforts in the works. I had a story about mine at a very local level when I told my family about what I had found. One of my children had a meeting with the owner of one of the major, very large condo developments, and told that person, what I had found in his development, that there were so many people that were lonely. He was incredibly moved by it. And he is enacting now a series of speakers in all of his properties throughout the winter to help the people that live in his condos be able to deal with loneliness and isolationism. He has the forum to do that. He's built his condos around recreation rooms, around community gardens, around a number of community things that are built right into the condo complexes themselves. So he has the forum to do it. But I think that the response from this particular landlord, I thought was stunning. And I thought was, that's something that's on a local level, that he just heard about it once and he said, this is something that we can work on. So it does seem to be an issue that people are getting involved in, on all different levels. And so I was delighted to hear that.
That's wonderful to hear that he stepped up like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give people perspective though on this, in terms of the effect on health, loneliness can contribute to heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, and if you had air pollution as your major problem, there'd be a 5% increase in mortality rate from that. If you had obesity as your problem, you'd have a 20% increase in mortality. If you had drinking, you'd have a 30% increase in mortality. But if you have loneliness, you have a 45% increase in mortality. So it's a very pressing issue. And it looks like it's being championed, which is very positive.
Again, just really stunning numbers, but happy to hear that people are focusing on this issue at a local level, at a state level, at a national level. Leslie, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about on this topic about how we can make this better? How do we make this better, or how do we bring this to people's attention?
Well, the first thing is to be aware and notice if someone seems more withdrawn, if there's someone that a neighbor or even someone who used to go to church who's not sitting in their normal place anymore. When you start to find out that people are having some isolation, problems with connecting or with transportation or mobility, to reach out to them. And one of the suggestions was for every person to take 15 minutes a day and reach out to someone, whether it's a neighbor, someone that's an acquaintance, someone that they have heard about, or to be part of an organization like Beta Sound and do friendly visits. You can do that according to your own schedule, and there's no commitment time-wise. But the more that you get involved and you reach out and you also help serve other people, the more we decrease this prevalence of loneliness.
Well, not only in the person that you're trying to service, but in yourself as well.
We all through the lifespan experience loneliness at certain times in our lives. And things that can make it worse are trauma or illness or loss or the experience of aging, or a spouse that's ill. All these things are really signals to us that we need to take care of each other.
Leslie, I couldn't have ended on a more wonderful, wonderful note than that. Taking care of each other here on Cape Cod, here in Massachusetts, in the country, wherever we are, taking care of each other and taking care of our vulnerable populations. And if we get an indication that somebody is lonely and isolated, and we know that that's going to contribute so much to their ill health and even to death, is clearly enough reason to get somebody motivated to do something. However, if you're the person who is lonely, there were those steps that we had talked about, and journaling, taking a walk, calling somebody, joining a group. Let's see, what were the other ones that?
He said reaching out to going next door to a neighbor, getting together for coffee. You can do things to fill the time, distract yourself. You could go watch something on television that really interests you. You could listen to music. There are many activities that will help. And then you can go more inward and do some mindfulness, which is a wonderful strategy for decreasing stress and helping you feel comfortable as you are, where you are. And I think that the more we can do those things and help ourselves individually too, the more we feel that sense of security and peace that helps us to feel good in our own skin, and allows us to reach out to other people. We don't feel confident and good ourselves. It's really hard to do outreach.
And here on Cape Cod, obviously, we would love anybody over 50 to take a look at the Academy of Lifelong Learning. We have Zoom classes, don't have to leave your home. If you want to come and socialize, we have them in person. We also have any number of social activities. So ALL can keep you very involved and very active. So Leslie and I would like to thank you very much for your time. We hope that you have found this interesting, and that if you are somebody who's feeling that you are lonely at this point, we hope that we've mentioned a few things that you could try out, or if you're somebody that wants to reach out to somebody who might be suffering from isolationism or loneliness, a few ways to help another person. So thank you very much from the Academy of Lifelong Learning. You can see us on our page, which is capecodall.org. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube, and we are also on cable news television here on Cape Cod on channel 26. So thank you very much for watching, and good night.